didn't happen today. We do have about 65 people signed up to testify, so that's over 3 hours of testimony. We would encourage that if you are just going to read your letter, that you just summarize it, let us know that you've submitted it, support or opposition, but it is your choice to use the 3 minutes how you'd like to. With that, we will get started. I'll be calling in 4 people at a time, swear all 4 in, and then we'll begin in the order in which they're called. So we'll call up Pauline Kealoha, Ming Pang, Robert Wyman, and Dr. Henry Lee-Loy. Yeah, Madam Director?
While you have the right to read aloud your written testimony, if you have submitted written testimony in the interest of trying to get through all the people who have signed up who have perhaps not submitted written, if you've submitted written testimony, perhaps you could reference it and try to shorten rather than taking the whole 3 minutes, because as I calculate this, if everybody goes 3 minutes, then we're at 3¼ hours. And if there's time in between moving people in and out, then you're pushing into 4 or 5. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Director. Okay, can we get all of you to raise your right hand? You all swear to tell the truth today before the Wyman Planning Commission?
Yes.
Very good. And so what you'll have is give me your name, area in which you live, and then your 3 minutes will begin. So we will start with Donald Ikeda.
My name is Donald Ikeda. I live at 966 Kaumana Drive, about maybe 1/3 mile from the development. Okay, thank you, commissioners, for allowing me to give a few comments. I'm not against education, and I'm not against a non-traditional and a special schooling for special needs students. But I believe that any entity that's going into a community should make an honest effort to be a good neighbor. When you're the new guy that's coming into a community like Connections School, they should get together with the neighborhood, and I think Connections Charter School has failed to do this. I would like to ask the commissioners to listen closely to all the concerns the committee members want to tell to you, and there's a lot of misrepresentation and unfriendly acts by the school and its officials and its representatives. I would further ask that this commission take time to read applicants' petition very carefully, and if you have not already done so, take the time to research and confirm each of the carefully worded assertions made by the school officials and representatives. This carefully crafted document is full of half-truths and unfulfilled promises. I would like to suggest that the school and its representatives be held accountable on a regular and fundamental basis if they are allowed to proceed. I would further suggest that unless proof can be made of fulfillment of the promises and assertions set forth by the school and its representatives, no progress be allowed until the promises and assertions are fulfilled. By and large, the community is opposed to the project, and with good reason. I won't take any more of your time, but you will hear it from the community. I would like to highlight a few concerns that I have.
1 minute.
My first concern is water credits. If you check with the Board of Water Supplies, they have 7 water credits. It's insufficient for the 360 students, 50 employees, and 7 part-time employees. Also, the traffic mitigations. Right now, they only have a left turn lane into Edita, which is a 2-lane street. What happened is John Thatcher had promised that he was going to look into an easement coming in from Poinako, but right now, all he's talking about is coming into Edita. The dormitory, when first explained, was for occasionally foreign students, then it became foreign students and teachers, and now it's foreign students and other people and full-time employees. Also, the school representatives stated that...
Time. Thank you, Mr. Ikeda. Any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, thank you. Ming Pang?
My name is Ming Pang. I live at 1547 Mariana Street. I've lived in Mariana for 9 years. The proposed construction is planned on Edita Street, which is the only ingress and egress of the plantation subdivision, which will increase traffic demands along our street and along Kaumana. In the interest of time, I have referenced that in my written testimony. We have heard the entire project is projected to be completed within 16 to 25 years. The surrounding community along Kaumana would be condemned to endure increasing traffic, noise, utilization of resources, and levels of stress for the next 16 to 25 years for our construction and this school. This project will no doubt degrade quality of life to the surrounding Kaumana area. I'd like to offer alternatives. About 50%, as we have heard, of the students come from Puna. Mr. Thatcher also stated publicly in his press conference on October 23rd that the Edita location provides land his students to learn on that is very similar to land in Puna. Yet according to their own EIS on pages 15 to 16, none of the TMKs considered for the new campus locations were considered in Puna. This should be explored. You will hear many emotional and heartfelt arguments. However, this is about the construction of an institution into an area where there is overwhelming opposition from the majority of residents who will be most impacted. This is especially in an area where there are already schools along Kaumana on a 4-mile drive, including Kaumana Elementary, De Silva Elementary, and the Hilo schools. The institution seems to have acted on the presumption that this commission will authorize their project. Boundaries have been cleared, a fence installed, articles written in the Hilo Tribune, and plans have been made as we have already seen. We are just a community trying to advocate for our neighborhood against a larger institution. We do not have the benefit of hired representatives, professionals, or attorneys. You, the Land Commission, are our equalizer. Please deny this project. I'd like to add that by denying the special permit, you are not stopping the building of the school, but allowing the school to search for more appropriate locations. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the testifiers? Seeing none, thank you very much. Robert Wyman?
Good morning. Thank you for this opportunity.
Name and area in which you live, and then your 3 minutes, please.
My name is Robert Wyman. I live at 1840 Kaumana Drive, just above the Kaumana Elementary School. I've lived there for the last 6 years. I've also lived on the Kaumana Drive for the last 9 years, actually, just down by the 76 station. I ride my bike to and from work via Kaumana Drive 2 to 3 times a week. Kaumana Drive is a very dangerous road on which to walk or ride a bike, and I fear for every pedestrian I see moving along this road, especially my 7-year-old daughter who I walk to school at Kaumana. The conditions of the road is poor in many areas, and there's essentially no curbside on which to walk or ride safely. And I wish Donald Ikeda best luck of getting sidewalks put in. The traffic on this road is excessive in the morning, and I'm greatly concerned about the introduction of a large number of additional vehicles trying to access the Edita Road or street by Kaumana Drive from above and below. What I have understood from the traffic study indicates to me that it was not done properly. Consider the steep approach of Kaumana Drive from above Edita Street and the typical speed that cars move along there. And consider the cars turning left off of Kaumana across their path. Consider the vehicles headed to Saddle Road backing up behind them. And finally, consider the vehicles traveling to Edita by the way of Micro Extension. If you live on Kaumana Drive above the cave, you know that it's a drag strip. Someone is going to die there by a vehicle accident. 35-mile-per-hour speed limit means nothing, and it is an outlawed traffic condition. This is my opinion. I have never seen a car pulled over speeding, and I'm disgusted at the use of this section of road. But over and above this is a safety risk it poses to the elementary school and pedestrians walking in the vicinity, and now, of course, students related to this school. Adding more vehicles, traffic to this road, I believe, will negatively impact this community. Is the data correct? 232 accidents on Kaumana Drive last year, and 191 so far this year. A statement from the police that there will be an increase in noise, crime, and traffic. Well, I'm concerned about the traffic primarily. in this vicinity should give pause and serious consideration to the project. I respect the work of the Connections School and their commitment to the students, but I want to know when this road will get safer, slower, and wider. I'm very concerned that there's a gross misunderstanding of the nature of the traffic in this area on this road by persons who do not live there, and that the efforts to mitigate it will not be effective. I respectfully request that the project be denied on that basis only.
Thank you. Any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, thank you very much. Dr. Henry Lee-Loy. Give me your name and area in which you live, and then your 3 minutes will begin.
My name is
Is that on?
Okay. My name is Dr. Henry Lee-Loy. I live on Mariana Street. Good morning. I am a physician.
3 minutes beginning now.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Henry Lee-Loy. I'm a physician. I live on Mariana Street. As a physician, I know the value of a good education. I was born and raised in Hilo. I'm a proud graduate of Hilo High and Hilo College. I champion public schools. Let's see, how many of you students attend Connections? Raise your hand, let's see. Awesome. How many of you live in Kaumana? Raise your hands. I have no diatribe with the Connections Public Charter School students. My concern is safety of the neighborhood and students. Permitting this large institution to be built with only one entrance and exit is extremely dangerous. Fire, health emergencies, earthquakes, acts of terrorism could trap students, faculty, and residents. The intersection is hazardous. In the morning, people are rushing down Kaumana Drive to get to work and get children to school. School children are waiting right on Kaumana Drive to catch their bus. Connections Charter School will have 380 students, faculty, and LDS maintenance workers, groundskeepers, security, dorm residents, trucks for agriculture, farming, forestry, livestock programs. Traffic will back up and down Kaumana Drive as these people try to enter in Edita Street. Traffic rushing downhill will not have time to stop as they come around the curve, resulting in deadly rear-end accidents. Kaumana Drive cannot be widened. Placing traffic signals would cause traffic to back up. The planning department recommends an 8-foot wide sidewalk and a left turn lane into the school. There's a concrete channel for water parallel to Edita Street. Private property will have to be condemned to widen this area. Teenage drivers are one of the highest risk categories. They tend to overestimate their driving skills. Upper Kaumana rains a lot. Kaumana Drive is tortuous, unforgiving. The risk of road crashes will be immediate, substantial, sustained. Connections Chart School will bus in some students. Public school buses presently have difficulty getting in and out of Edita Street. Developer William Belhanti has already opened up 40 more lots. He has no plans to extend Edita Street. Throughout the morning, you will hear testimony from students, faculty, and supporters. But please keep in mind, safety takes priority. I took a Hippocratic oath to do no harm, caring for my patients. Ask yourself, am I putting the public in harm's way if I allow this project? If you have questions, doubts, or share my concern for more accidents, injuries, and death, and lawsuits, you must do the right thing. And without your decision will disappoint many, but will prevent unnecessary injury and save lives. It could be one of these 5 young students standing before you. Lastly, I leave you with this image of an accident that occurred just 7 weeks ago. I invite you to come back to this image after each testimony and at the end of this hearing. Something this ambitious needs the support of the whole community. But as you will hear from my neighbors, they clearly do not. I leave it in your hands. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, thank you very much. So there are a few folks signed up to testify on behalf of somebody else. I'm going to permit that, but what I'd like those people to do is really stick with what the person that they're representing, what their testimony is, not a continuation of your own. So with that, I will call up four more. Dr. Henry Lee-Loy on behalf of Pauline and Larry Kimura, Dana Kenny, Terrence Yoshioka, and Jan Dokuyama. And I will wait for everybody gets in here, and then I will spread them in. We have Jan.
I'm Jan.
Terrence.
Yes.
Dana Kenny.
She might have left.
Speak up if you're here.
He left.
Okay.
Oh, he left.
Then Jeff Gomes. Can I have you three raise your right hand, please? Do you swear to tell the truth today before the Wyman Planning Commission?
Yes.
Very good. Dr. Lee-Loy, on behalf of Pauline, what's your last name? Could you use your microphone?
Pauline Kealoha Lee-Loy.
Okay. Go ahead.
My name is Pauline Kealoha Lee-Loy. I regret that I'm not able to testify in person as I remain in isolation at the Queen's Medical Center where I'm undergoing chemotherapy for acute leukemia. I've been an educator for the past 33 years. I commend them for their dedication. I feel that they deserve a new academic campus. However, I feel that this is not a good location for the Connections Public Charter School. Kaumana Elementary School is located just 0.3 of a mile from the proposed project and has been servicing the community for over 100 years. The County of Hawaii Planning Department says, quote, from a planning perspective, the request has proven to be difficult in arriving at a position we are comfortable with. The greatest difficulty we encountered was determining whether or not this is an appropriate location for a public charter school, whose student body largely consists of students who do not live in this particular section of Hilo. Currently, there are approximately 50% of the student body coming from the Puna district, and approximately 50% coming from different locations in South Hilo. In reviewing this land use request for a new K-12 school, we considered several factors. One factor is that a K-12 school should be located in close proximity to where people live, and near the center of probable student population for the proposed school. A school should not be located in an area where the students live a far distance from the school and require students to be transported via buses or vehicles. Quote, I believe contrary to the County Planning Department's perspective, the location of the school would not create a better neighborhood and a more livable community, as students would be transported a far distance via buses and vehicles, increasing traffic congestion in our neighborhood. It is already well served with existing public schools. Again, as an individual dedicated to education in both public and private schools for the last 33 years, I applaud the effort of charter schools for their diligence in meeting the needs of diverse learners. Indeed, 21st century learning has gone beyond traditional classrooms, with innovation unimagined a trite decade ago. What I oppose is the proposed location of the school. From personal experience, we teach our students to develop a, quote, sense of place for the community in which you live. That would suggest to me that the school should be located in alignment with predominant demographics of the current student population. Respectfully, Pauline Kealoha Lee-Loy, resident of Melimanu Street.
Thank you. Now, Dr. Lee-Loy on behalf of Larry Kimura. representing and here we begin.
Dr. Henry Lee-Loy, and representing Professor Larry Kimura. Aloha, Windward Planning Commission. My name is Larry Kimura, a current resident of Kaumana, within proximity to the proposed Connections Charter School site. I am in opposition to plans and requests submitted for the Connections School in Kaumana. I carefully selected Kaumana over 20 years ago as an ideal residential community to live in, being somewhat near to my home in Hilo town, but most importantly, recognizing a community of closeness with neighbors. I know some of the old families from the sugar plantation days, the start of Kaumana Elementary School, that still live and go to school in Kaumana, and I believe they have contributed greatly to the neighborly lifestyle of Kaumana. I find it difficult to acknowledge a whole new set of people outside of Kaumana who propose to implant their philosophical charter of education in this setting. Schools should be a common part of their home communities. As far as I know, most of the families of Connections are not from Kaumana. I would think the place the families of Connections are most connected to should be the natural place for their school to be. A charter of education, administration, and money should not be the deciding factors. Respectfully submitted, Larry Kimura, Kaumana resident.
Thank you very much. Terrence Yoshioka. Very good. So give me your name and area in which you live, and then your 3 minutes will be good.
My name is Terrence Yoshioka. I am a resident of Pacific Plantation Subdivision. I live on Melimanu Street. Thank you. I have already provided to the commission members a written argument in opposition to the petition. It's entitled Reasons for Denial, 12-page document. I also have provided a written statement of myself, which should have been entitled Oral Statement of what I was going to say here today. It's a summary of the arguments I had made. And for the sake of further brevity and to save time, I'm just going to allow these documents to speak for itself, and I ask that they be made a part of the record of the proceedings. I just want to add to what is already stated in these documents, assurance to the students of Connections Charter School. Nobody that I know is opposed to you. Nobody has said anything negative about the students. Basically, I want you to understand that this is in opposition to the location of the school, that there are many, many other places where the school would not be so intrusive, so would not be so problematic for the residents, and nothing that I know of is in opposition to you as to your curriculum or to your character. And that's the essence of it that I wanted, the message that I wanted to communicate. So I'm going to leave the rest of my time open to the commissioners for questions if they have any about me. But basically what I wanted to say was that there is no basis for the establishment of an agriculture program. Nothing. There's no research, no study to indicate that an agriculture program is necessary or that one will actually be implemented. And without an agriculture program, everything must fail, because everything is based upon that. The size of the lot, they say that this is the only site available, not so. If you eliminated 20 acres set aside for the agriculture program, then the lot, there are many other lots that would be suitable for this program. And I don't know what is unique about this particular piece of property, which makes it the only site available to them.
1 minute.
So, yes. I'll leave the rest open for questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the testifier? Seeing none. Thank you. Jan Yokuyama.
Good morning, members of the commission. My name is Jan Yokoyama, and I live at 1300 Kaumana Drive, close to the Connections Charter School, to the proposed Connections Charter School. I have lived in Kaumana all my life. Like the Otanis, the Fujisawas, the Hoshides, the Kitamuras, the Okutsus, and Yamamotos. I am also the block coordinator of the Kaumana Cave Neighborhood Watch, and we object to this project as the roads leading to the project, not only Edita Street but Kaumana Drive, are not adequate for the increase in traffic. I am also concerned about the proposed dormitory to be built. It scares me and my neighbors that strangers to the community will be able to wander around our neighborhood day and night. This proposed school will adversely affect the quality of our life and not serve the needs of our community. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to express my concerns.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, y'all may have a seat. One second. Jeffrey Gomes?
Before I start, I left a package of information. Okay,
Very good. Are you going to be speaking to this?
yes.
Okay. The proper protocol for you to make 15 copies of this and submit it to us.
Can I be right back?
Yeah, I think it would, we can have staff make copies of that, and then when that's done, I can have you come back in.
Okay.
That's okay, that way we actually, all the commissioners have something to look at.
Great.
That'd be great. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Mr. Gomes. So I will, once they do that, I'll.
Shall I do the other two that I'm representing? I'm representing Loretta Crivello and Kimo Miller.
Did you sign up to?
I did, I signed up for them.
Oh, yes. There you are. Please do. So this would be on behalf of Kimo Miller. And just give me your name and area in which you live as the representative.
I'm Jeff Gomes, I live on Edita Street, and Kimo Miller lives on Kaumana Drive.
Okay, 3 minutes begins now.
And his main concern is the traffic.
Our main concern is power.
But anyway, his main concern is...
We have to tape this, and so without the electricity, we can't record because we need a record of
Time out.
let's see if we can find out what's happening.
5-minute recess. Okay, back in order. Okay.
Have Sharon check.
Okay, 1 second.
Reset the clock.
Are we good, Sharon? Yes. Good on timing? Ready to go? 3 minutes begins now.
I'm Jeff Gomes. I'm speaking for Kimo Miller, who lives on Kaumana Drive, and Kimo is concerned with the traffic, and he's upset that he was not notified about any of this by his neighbor, John Thatcher, who lives 2 doors down. And he doesn't know why. In his statements, he says, of all the people who should be notified first, it should be us. The school principal, who I understand lives in our area, didn't have the guts to come out and talk to us because he knows it wouldn't be acceptable. So now he's hiding behind your system. And I understand how Kimo feels. And so that's what Kimo wants to really put out there, and that there are other alternative sites. And he also believes that the alternative sites are feasible, and there's nothing wrong with the alternative sites. Too big doesn't sound like a good reason not to use the alternative site. You don't have to use the entire property, and that's what Kimo wants.
Very good. Now you'll be on behalf of Loretta Crivello.
So Loretta Crivello is the owner of Crivello's on Kaumana Drive, and her concern is the caves empty out into the river behind her home and her store. And she saw the bulldozing going on, the illegal bulldozing that went on behind her property, and she's concerned that the caves will get damaged because she knows from living there for years that massive water comes out from that cave when the river flows. And she's concerned that if they keep bulldozing and doing illegal work like they have been doing, that it could damage the caves and damage her property and everybody else down below. And she also is concerned that it seems like they don't care that there are organisms living in the cave. So that's her testimony.
Very good. Thank you very much, and I will call you back up when we get the paperwork and all that. Thank you. And, Ryan Kaneko, Robin Gomez, Cheyenne Hirano, and Jason Turner. All come forward, please.
Yes.
Very good. And so I'll leave your name, area in which you live, and then your 3 minutes will begin. And we'll start with Ryan Kaneko.
Good morning. My name is Ryan Kaneko. I live at 1294 Kaumana Drive. And is it? Can I start?
Yep.
Okay.
3 minutes, please now.
Okay. My main concern is with the traffic situation that will probably arise from having the school at the location that is planned. According to the site map that was sent to us by Mr. Hong, the road leading into the campus is a 1-lane road. Now, in the morning, assuming buses, delivery vehicles, students being dropped off, the cars can only go down, then have to be stopped and let those cars come back up. When that's happening, the traffic has to go somewhere, which seems to be the short little section of Edita Street between the proposed campus and Kaumana Drive. And if that backs up, the only place is to go up and down Kaumana Drive. Now, as that has already been stated by several people, the roadway is not the best road. And it's only going to take a little bit of rain, somebody not paying attention, not seeing the cars have stopped, and you're looking at possibly very serious accidents. When they fixed the road right above Edita Street several years ago, it helped, but now people go faster. So it's a really big concern with myself anyway. And I just wanted to bring that up. And I gave you a copy of what I was going to talk about, but that is basically what I want to come across with. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for this part? Seeing none, thank you. Robin Gomez? Give your name and area in which you live. If you don't feel comfortable giving your address, that's fine. You can just say Kaumana, Hilo, Kuna.
Sure.
And name and where you live, and then these 3 minutes will begin.
Sure. Robin Gomes, 281 Edita Street. Basically, I have a testimonial here, and I believe everyone has a copy of this. It's from Kyra Gomes, and I'm just going to be very brief about it. And basically, she's 10 years old, and she explains about her concerns about having this school being built directly across of her. But basically, how it's being conducted right now, and she's very worried and concerned how things are being done.
And she's also worried about the facilities that are proposed to be built there with her allergies. She's afraid of that as well. But and that's, if you have a chance to go and read it, it's in there. But basically, I also wanted to add about what I've been hearing about what the testimonials that have been coming up here. You had brought it up earlier about keeping everything with the land planning. And I think there's a misconception by all of the kids that are here that the people of Kaumana don't want them or don't want the school. It's basically not being built there, and that's all. As to the school itself, I haven't heard anybody that is against the school and what they stand for. But basically, having it being built there, it's not a good thing. And if you look at some of the testimonials that have been come up previously about the school's communication with the community, it's been lacking. And it's only fairly recently they've been trying to communicate and share. One of the engineers described that they're more than willing to work with the community with the decision to be made and saying that it's going to be built now today. That's not really working with the community. We should be exploring the other alternatives, and that we need, as a community, if they're willing to work with us, they should be able to propose that with us as well, and we can work with other alternatives. And that's what a lot of the community is looking for, and you'll hear more testimony of that as well.
Thank you very much. Any questions for testifier? Seeing none, thank you. Shinai?
Yes.
Shinai Hirano. Name and area in which you live, then you have 3 minutes to begin.
My name is Shinai Hirano. I live on Edita Street. My husband and I moved there 19 years ago, so we saw a lot of changes. It's not, I want the students to know that we're not against you. It's just the location of the school, because we heard that 50% of the students of the Puna area, doesn't it make better sense to have a school that's closer to Puna instead of the parents and students coming up the winding road way up to Kaumana? It makes better sense to have it closer to Panaeva. And especially the seniors, when you come up Kaumana, especially on a rainy day, it can be hazardous. It's very narrow, hardly any place where you can park on the side. And so I think that it would be wiser to find a better location. Hilo is a big town. There are many alternatives. They can find better locations than building a school way up Kaumana with a narrow winding road, and it's not the ideal location for a school. So I strongly oppose building a school up Kaumana. There are many other better locations, more convenient for the parents and more convenient for the students. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, thank you. Jason Turner, name and area in which you live, you may begin.
Thank you. Dr. Jason Turner. I'm a resident of 1209C Kaumana Drive. My property runs up against the proposed area for development, and specifically the back of the property runs right up against the area that was already illegally cleared and fenced. First, let me say that I'm adamantly opposed to this proposed development by Connections Schools at this location in the Kaumana community. And I'll do my best to fully articulate those objections. I provided those in writing, so I'll just try to touch on some of the high points. First, there are, as we've heard before, there are already several schools serving the Kaumana community, 2 elementary schools within 2 miles of the proposed site, and then Hilo Inter and Hilo High. And I think it should be noted that this community is not asking for another school. Another school is being imposed on this community. Therefore, we ask that the Commission recommend that the proposed development be moved elsewhere, ideally to a community where schools are lacking and that would better serve the students already attending Connections schooling. Second, as you've heard and probably will hear from my neighbors, Connections administrators have misled the Kaumana community, and I think that's a polite word, misled, with regards to the fact of the proposed development. My wife and I first learned about this development, and again, it runs right up against our property. The first we heard of it was on June 18th, when contractors carrying machetes entered our property to tell us that a bulldozer would be coming through the next day to clear the land and a fence would be put up. When we called Connections, we were put in touch with Mr. Eric Boyd, who came to our property and spoke about the project and said at that time that they would be clearing by hand a 5-foot wide path to erect a fence. We asked why a fence was going up, and he said 2 reasons: for our protection, and second, so the community would know, and I quote, that this project was going to happen. The next day, a D9 bulldozer came through, and I provided pictures of all of that, the illegal dozing and the illegal clearing.
1 minute.
For the fence to go up. And when I asked the contractor for his permit, he put me in touch with Eric Boyd again, who came out on site. I asked Eric for the permit. He assured me that he was on the phone with his attorney, who assured him that all permits were in place. And as we all read in the paper, that is being characterized completely differently to the community and to the general public. I go on in my statement about reading through their EIS, specifically pages 56 and 57, about how they're supposed to do environmental surveys for the endangered species on the property, and that they were supposed to work around the breeding and nesting dates of these species, and they have not, or conducted surveys pre-illegal clearing and fencing. The bottom line is that I honestly say to Connections School administrators, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, thank you. You can have a seat. Calling up Wendy Gomes, Jeffrey Meek, Les Sakamoto, and June Sakamoto. Wendy Gomes, Jeffrey Meek, Les Sakamoto, and June Sakamoto. Jeffrey Meek. Yeah. Jeffrey? I think he's leaving. See if he comes back. So can you get maybe raise your right hand? Swear to tell the truth today for the Wyman Planning Commission. Very good. We'll start with Wendy Gomes. Name, area in which you live, and your reasons to begin.
Hi, I'm Wendy Hoshide Gomes. I live on Edita Street, adjacent to the proposed Mauka portion of the campus. Every summer during the evening hours, a family pastime was watching the endangered Hawaiian Hoary bats forage for food. I have video footage of the bats, and many other residents have also seen these bats. I'm a public school teacher and always proudly share with my students my experiences with these endangered animals. Sadly, extensive bulldozing and felling of trees occurred in June and July. The bat pupping season runs from May 15th through August 15th, and Hawaiian hawk breeding season runs from March to September. This is the first summer in years that we haven't seen any bats. So I go on to talk about the portions in the the EA, and the recommendations of the environmental assessment were clearly not followed. The plans mention a forestry conservation program, but the extensive clearing of ohia trees and bulldozing contradict their goals. Fence lines have been erected in numerous other locations using hand clearing to lessen the environmental impact. When it rains heavily, water gushes through our property and drains into what we believe is an entrance to the lower portion of the Kaumana Caves. Judging by the flow of the water, it seems to run directly under the proposed school. Sometimes the volume of water is terrifying. We fear that the extensive construction plan will damage the cave system, adversely affect the drainage in the area, and potentially cause flooding. I'm pleading with you to deny this project because I have witnessed the environmental damage illegally done in a time period of less than 2 months. I can only imagine what else will happen if this project is allowed to continue. Please help us protect the Aina, the cave system, and endangered animals. Being a teacher, I am not anti-school. I believe you have wonderful teachers, and I know a few of them. However, with the overwhelming opposition from the residents up and down Kaumana Drive and concerns about traffic, this is not the ideal location for this project. Your leaders have taken many missteps which have led to distrust and disbelief within the community. This is not a recipe for success. Schools and its surrounding community should be a partnership. Please consider one of your alternative sites for consolidating your school. Please be pono. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for a testifier? Thank you. Jeffrey, Mink? Before you begin, I need to get you to raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth today before the Kaumana Planning Commission?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. Use your microphone. Give me your name, area in which you live, and your 3 minutes.
If you don't mind, since little Mr. Meek isn't going to testify, I'll stand up so it's
That's
easy.
fine.
My name is Jeffrey Meek. I'm a contractor in Hilo. I live in Puna. I'm also a member of the Order of the Eastern Star service group that offers scholarships, and I hope to one day award some of these people a scholarship, these young people. And I'm really glad to see the residents here voicing their opinion, and I think there's a great forum to build more trust that's going to be needed if this does move forward. And one note I'd like to make is I am a contractor for some of the charter schools, and it's really amazing the amount of personal ownership that the parents have and the students have in these schools. And I see that there's very little vandalism. The schools are well maintained for their budgets, and our contractors really work with them to make sure that those facilities are maintained. My wife is a teacher at Connections. This is her first year. She did her cohort at Kaumana Elementary, and now I'm just terrified at seeing how dangerous Kaumana is. We drove that road every morning to drop her off at the cohort. I mean, 100 years, people going back and forth there. I didn't know how dangerous it was, but we didn't seem to have too much trouble. As far as addressing going from Pune into town, we do that every morning. James, I, and Mary, we drop Mary off at the school, and it's nice. It's nice. Sometimes the urge to keep Puna people in Puna doesn't always work out when Puna people work in Hilo. And Puna people work in Hilo and bring their kids to school, pick their kids up, and return to Puna. We know that because we see what the road looks like to and from Puna. I can see that there's an urge to say, well, we're not opposed to the school, we're just opposed to the location. Well, I can guarantee you, in Puna, if we went to build this school there, we'd have some residents that had some concerns too. I think it's a great location. I think it's a great opportunity for the students. And I know if involved in this, myself or other contractors, we'll make sure that what we do it in a fashion that we keep the community involved. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for a testifier? Seeing none, thank you. Les Sakamoto, name and area you live?
I'm Les Sakamoto. I lived on Mariana Street for the last 20 years.
Go ahead.
Location, location, location. No doubt you've already heard this from a realtor. After all, it's their mantra, and for good reason. Right house, wrong location, and the resale value suffers. Right business, wrong location, and enterprise fails. Right school, wrong location, well, you get the picture. Case in point, the new Connections School. Great concept, but wrong location. So just what constitutes the right location? The Hawaii County Planning Director states, a school should be located in close proximity to where people live and near the center of probable student population. A school should not be located in an area where the students live a far distance and require to be transported via buses or vehicles. Although the director issued a favorable recommendation for the school, I must remind the commissioners, this was done with reservations, subject to change, based on the testimonies presented today. In the director's background report, it stated, "The planning department has not received any objections from the general public or adjacent landowners." Well, today we are here representing those adjacent landowners and hundreds of others who could not be present to express our overwhelming opposition towards locating that school in Kaumana. We are not against schools, and we're certainly not against the students of Connections School. We truly want the best education for our children, for this and future generations, including those at Connections. What we are against is the location of the proposed school. Ask yourself, will the school be located in close proximity to this probable student population? The answer is no. Already half the students' population comes from Puna, the fastest growing on this island. Who knows? In 5 years, perhaps 3/4 or more of the students might come from Puna. Wouldn't it make sense that the school be built in or near that community? Ask yourself, will the school serve the Kaumana community's needs? Highly doubtful, and certainly the numerous detriments far, far outweigh any perceived benefits. Besides, we already have many well-established schools: Kaumana Elementary, E.B. De Silva, Hilo Union, Hilo Intermediate, Hilo High School. Ask yourself, will the school create a sense of community with its surrounding neighborhood? Again, no. Over 400 people signed a petition opposing the school's location in Kaumana because its adverse effects on our residents and our neighborhood and beyond cannot be satisfactorily mitigated. We believe there are alternative sites better suited for the school, some of which may have been summarily dismissed by its administrators as being too large or too small, and other sites that were not even considered or fully explored. We ask you, the Wyman Planning Commission, to deny this special permit, and in so doing, compel the leaders of Connections to seek that alternative, appropriate location for the new campus. Only then will the school be able to advance quickly and harmoniously to achieve its stated goals.
Time. Thank you. Any questions for a testifier? Yeah, Commissioner Au?
You did mention that there was, I'm sorry. You did mention in the presentation that there was a petition with 400 signatures.
Yes, and I believe that will be presented sometime today.
It's in here. Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you. Jun Sakamoto, name and area in which you live, and then you may begin. Please use your microphone.
Jun Sakamoto. I live on Milmano Street.
Take 3 minutes, begins.
I'm Jun Sakamoto. I live near the site of the proposed school. I am not against the school or students, but I am opposed to the school being built on Edita Street. It needs a more suitable location. A supporter of the school commented that we who oppose the building of schools may not understand the impact education has on our future. On the contrary, our neighborhood includes many professionals in the fields of education, medicine, science and technology, law, and so on, and they wouldn't have gotten to where they are without good education. And they have made significant contributions towards the present and future of our community. We value good education, but we won't agree to having a school built where it makes no sense and where it will have a negative impact on the quality of life and safety of the surrounding community. If you put the school on Edita Street, you will end up with a traffic hell for the neighborhood and the people up and down Kaumana Drive. Sorry, I'm so nervous. There are safety and emergency response issues to think about as well. Kaumana Drive is a winding, narrow road with short sight distances and no shoulders in most areas. Imagine trying to get emergency services through heavy school traffic on such a road. I have experienced the frustration of school traffic in other areas of Hilo. I don't want the same thing for the people of Kaumana Drive.
Remember to breathe. Helps.
In 2002, when the Mohu'uli extension was officially opened, the Star Bulletin quoted Bobby Jean Lee Todd as saying the $10 million cost was money well spent. She said the narrow, winding Kaumana Drive has the highest accident rate of any two-lane road on the island. When the Puainaku extension project was being worked on, It was stated that county officials were faced with high accident rates on Kaumana Drive. A 2004 Star Bulletin article about the opening of the Quantico Street extension referred to Kaumana Drive as narrow and winding with drop-offs into open drainage ditches along much of its length. The Quantico Street extension was to relieve congestion and improve safety on Kaumana Drive. My mail carrier confirmed that it made a huge difference. But if Connections is allowed to build on Edita Street, we and the county will once again have to deal with increased traffic congestion and safety issues on Kaumana Drive. Our quality of life will be affected as well. The school administration and the attorney would like us and you to believe that impact on the area will be minimal. I think they need to put on their glasses.
Fine. Thank you. Any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, y'all may have a seat. Calling up Melvin Yokota, Patsy Wasaki, Mariana Takamia, and Mark John.
My wife had to leave, Mariana Takamia had to leave, so I was going to testify. I'll just read her testimony.
Okay. Dakota Health Bridge. Start with Melvin. Give your name, area in which you live, and in 3 minutes will begin. Oh, thank you. Can I get you all to raise your right hand? You swear to tell the truth today before the Wyman Planning Commission?
Yes.
Yes.
Very good. Name and area in which you live, may begin.
Okay. My name is Melvin Yokota. I'm a 40-year resident of Hilo and have endured all of the traffic problems in Hilo for that whole time. You have my written testimony, so I'll just focus on 3 areas. I believe there's going to be quite a few parents that drop their students off in the morning and then have to go back in the afternoon to pick them up. My concern is for the parents that drop off and are coming down back into Hilo to go to work. They're going to encounter long backups at the Kaumana intersection, and those that go right from there will also encounter another long backup at the Mohu'uli and Komohana intersection. My experience is over there, each green light allows only about 12 to 16 cars to pass each time at best. So that will increase traffic delays, I would say, on the order of 20 to 30 minutes at each intersection. The other area there hasn't been any discussion about the impacts of the school on Greater Hilo. If you look at this area bound by Wainui, Kilauea, Kealoha Street, and Komohana, this is a heavily traveled school area and has high traffic each morning. I believe the bulk of the school population will be coming in Makai of this school area, and right now it's not a problem for them to get to school. But once they start coming Mauka of Komohana Street, all of that traffic is going to be added to the present heavy traffic in the Metro Hilo area. So this will have a severe impact on the residents of Hilo as a whole. The last observation I have is that for the parents that already come into Hilo, those that go up and down twice to drop off and pick up their students will experience an additional hour a day of driving and increased fuel costs. By my estimate, it'll cost them $600 in extra fuel a year, enough to buy each student a new laptop each year. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the testifier? Thank you very much. Patsy Wasaki.
Yes, my name is Patsy Wasaki and I live on Edita Street, very close to where the proposed Connections Charter School will be built. Mr. Chair and Board Land Use Commission members, as a faculty member with the Communication Department at the University of Hawaii at Hilo, I truly believe in the transforming power of education for myself and everyone in our community. My enthusiasm for teaching and working with the culturally, socially, and economically diverse student population at UHH inspires me to constantly look for ways to improve my teaching, to make learning interesting, meaningful, and academically rigorous, while incorporating practical applications and real-life connections. So I wholeheartedly support and applaud Connections Public Charter School for pursuing sustainable, community-based learning experience for its students. I understand their desire to consolidate the elementary, middle, and high schools on one campus to build a unified faculty, staff, and students. I even wrote an article interviewing a number of faculty from Connections Charter School, promoting and praising Connections Charter School for the Hawaii Herald, a publication on Oahu many years ago. However, I'm writing to you because I'm opposed to the building of the Connections Charter School campus on off of Edita Street in Kaumana. Like others in our close-knit neighborhood, my family and I are very responsible, community-minded, active participants of our island home. My family and I are most directly impacted by these plans because we live on Edita Street, and we would be bearing the burden of the physical, environmental, and social consequences of this project, which includes, and it has been repeated, so I'll just go over it. Kaumana Drive is a very dangerous, narrow two-lane road. I've seen and experienced myself waiting for a half an hour or more because of accidents, day and night. Traffic. Even now, I have to leave my house very early on Edita Street to take my children to school because of the large amount of traffic along Kaumana Drive that backs up. The landscape, the environment, student safety, neighborhood safety, water, sewer concerns, not serving the community. A large percentage of the students attending Connections are not from the Kaumana area. The school should be building a permanent campus in this community it services. Quality of life, increased traffic, accidents, traffic jams, safety of students, and safety of residents. All these concerns would significantly decrease the quality of life of residents in the area. We live on Edita Street, and my family and I and our neighbors will be most directly impacted from the above list of consequences. I would kindly suggest that the school modify their plans to seek out property and build its campus in the community it services and find another site for the school. Please know that I'm not opposed to the purpose and mission of Connections Public Charter School.
Time. Thank you. Any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, thank you. So, Mr. Chen, since Mariana Takamia signed up first, you're going to
I'll read
speak
her
for her.
first.
Okay. Maybe give me your name, though.
My name is Mark Chun. I live at 250 Edita Street.
Okay. And you're speaking for?
For Mariana Takamia.
Okay. Very good.
Dear Planning Commission members, my name is Mariana Takamia, and I live on Edita Street. Our home on Edita Street is our life investment. Had we known the plans of Connection to build such a campus next door, we would not have moved here. Any school that serves students who must commute 20 miles each way made sense in the 80s when oil prices were low. But given the reality In Hawaii, where oil is shipped in, this project should be moved to a location closer to the students that it currently serves, so as to decrease the unnecessary costs to the state by saving on oil and gas. Although I have searched in my heart, I cannot think of a positive impact on our neighborhood. When I asked the school principal if keikis from our neighborhood would be granted any preference to enroll in the school, he said without hesitation, no. Why build here then? If the school grows, traffic undoubtedly will increase. If for some unfortunate reason the school shrinks, the buildings will not be kept up, and if funding is not realized or disappears, we will be left with an Albizia-ridden, half-built abandoned property next door. Unlike the senior center project just approved, this project did not grow out of the immediate community. It's being imposed upon us. I walk with my dogs early mornings, and I can see and hear the variety of birds on Melimanu Street, which stands for Birdsong Street. Many of these birds must live in the upper parcel, Connections Principal. The school authorities say they won't develop that parcel, but given the unprofessional and conniving way they have handled the clearing and fencing of the lower parcel, and their aggressive attitude towards their future neighbors, I would not be surprised if in 10 to 20 years from now they develop the upper lot, destroying an integral part of the caves, bringing down even more of the fragile bird population of Hawaii. Regarding the campus itself, keeping up a farm is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week job. What will happen to the animals over breaks, long weekends, and summer vacations? Even when taken care of on a regular basis, the stench of animal manure in surrounding neighborhoods is nothing to look forward to. Who can guarantee that the excrement and smells from their educational farm will not ruin our gardens? Nobody, because there is no agency under which this unusual land use will have to respond to. The neighbors will have to close their windows, stop taking walks, and grow distrustful towards our leaders who do not think this project through. Thank you, Mariana Takamia.
Thank you. Tonight, you can begin your testimony. Give me your name. You may begin.
My name is Mark Chun, and I'm an astronomer and teacher at the University of Hawaii. And my wife and I are parents of we are parents of two wonderful kids, 9 and 11 years old. My family and I strongly oppose citing the Connections School here. We believe that the proposed Connections Charter School will have a strong negative impact on our community and will impact the quality of our lives. Putting the school here does not make sense. And I'll highlight two reasons which have been, one is which has been addressed previously, is Kaumana Road safety. As a long-term resident of Hilo, we know that the intersection at Kaumana and Edita and the road just south of this intersection has a long history of traffic accidents. Do you remember what it was like before they put the extension in? Let me remind you. Those were the days when the neighbors along Kaumana Drive put up signs along the road counting the days since the last accident. 4 days, 2 days, 1 day. And then the number of accidents each month. 12 accidents, 13 accidents, 14 accidents a month. We need only think back a few years to remind us that this road cannot safely handle the additional traffic. Why would we willingly go back to this? Why risk the safety of residents? Why risk the safety of the children and the families going to and from the school? The location of this project is at best badly conceived, and at worst a traffic hazard to all. Another safety issue that I wanted to bring up was the Kaumana cave safety. Just yesterday at lunch, the county emergency and fire crews were called to our street to help a person trapped in the Kaumana caves. This person was taken away in an ambulance. It is worrisome that the school plans activities, seeks out to site the school on top of the caves and plans activities that take place right next to and above the caves. We know people get in trouble in the caves. Why would we willingly risk the safety of the children by siting the school here? The location of this project is at best badly conceived, and at worst a safety hazard for the children. Who benefits from siting the school at this location?
1 minute.
The community does not. We have 2 excellent public schools in the area, and we live along an already dangerous section of the road. Siting the school in Kaumana Edita is truly a missed opportunity for the children of the school. It's not too late. You are the Windward Planning Commission, and you can affect a positive change. Don't leave the state. You consider the safety and good of the community in the near term and the long term. This is precisely the view you should take now. Is this good for the community, or is it better served by siting the school in a location where expansion and long-term growth can occur? Hilo is growing in other areas. The location of this project is not good planning. We're not debating the merits or the types of education that the Connections Charter School can provide. As two teachers at the University of Hawaii, my wife and I value the education of all of our children. As long-term residents of Hilo that are going to be severely impacted by this project, we simply do not believe that this is the right place. For the good of the community, deny this project. For the safety of the keiki, deny this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for testifier? Seeing none, thank you. Karen Tada?
Yes, thank you.
Name and area in which you live and maybe begin.
Hi, I'm Karen Tada. I live at 259 Edita Street, and I also submitted a letter. So as a teacher serving at Hilo High School for over 20 years, I'm well aware of the activities that take to run a school, along with the traffic, noise, and weekend activities. Our area is not adequate to sustain a facility of that size and student count. I strongly feel that allowing the Connections Charter School to be built would severely disrupt the dynamics of Kaumana and Edita Street. And I'm a big supporter of education, otherwise I still wouldn't be in it. I feel that having such a facility there, as my prior neighbors and colleagues have noted, that it is a safety hazard, and putting a dorm there also allows for a transient community. I have served in many schools as advisorships and mentored many students. I'm aware of the wide spectrum of students that Hilo High complex serves. I wholeheartedly believe that the Hilo High School complex provides all from every socioeconomic and ethnic backgrounds. My 3 children all have attended Kaumana Elementary, Hilo Intermediate, and Hilo High School. All have learned the value of what it means to be part of a community as well as being a community contributor. The Connections School is a student body that consists at least half of students that are outside the community, outside of the Kaumana area. I'm not debating the merits of this type of education or what the Connections Charter School can provide. However, as residents, I think we're going to be severely impacted by this project. I don't believe that it's in the right place. It's too big and does not serve the needs of our community. It's not close to many of the community it intends to serve. Both Kaumana and De Silva Elementary Schools are less than 3 miles apart from each other, and 2 miles from the proposed site. I feel that there were other options that were not considered that would be closer to serve the connection students, that would not have a negative environmental impact and offer more efficient use of their money spent for infrastructure and operational costs. So I do not support this venture, so I request that you deny their request. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for a testifier? Seeing none, thank you. No one have a seat. Patty Kishimoto, Paul Paiva, Robert Gomes, Alan Novak.
Good morning, Mr. Kern. Good morning, Ms. Moses, Mr. Au. Good morning, Mr. Torigoy, and Ms. Lee Todd, Mr. Gonzalez, and Mr. Ono, and friends. My name is Patty Nishimoto, and I live in the Pacific Plantation subdivision. I have lived there for 4 years, but I have lived in Kaumana for over 40 years. My family has lived in Kaumana for over 90 years. 4 generations of my family continue to live in Kaumana. Over the years, Kaumana has experienced its fair share of growth. I'm not opposed to further growth and development, but whatever growth that is imposed upon this community needs to be of the right kind, should meet the needs of and benefit the community. Being an educator, I'm very aware of the excellent area schools that already serve our Kaumana community. Many are, according to the No Child Left Behind Act, in good standing. To have an additional school in such close proximity would be excessive and is unwarranted. Though I understand that a charter school is not obligated to serve a particular geographic area, there is concern that the large majority of the student body do not reside in the Kaumana community. The daily influx poses many concerns. How will such a school grow in an already well-established and aging community? Would it be reasonable and fair to ask the Kaumana community to bear the environmental, infrastructural, and social impact issues, not to mention other deleterious effects yet unknown or undetermined, given a construction timetable of 16 to 25 years? Growth must be planned thoughtfully with deep consideration for those closest to the change. Careful consideration must be given, even more so when those closest to the change feel so strongly that the detriments outweigh the benefits. Thank you for considering my testimony as you decide the fate of our Kaumana.
Thank you. Any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, thank you. And Paul Paiva, name and area in which you live, and you may begin.
Hi, good morning or afternoon. My name is Paul Scotty Paiva. I live at 1169 Kaumana Drive, which is about 100 yards makai of Edita Street. Good morning, Commissioners. We've heard a lot about the school and the great work that they have done with the kids, but this is not why I'm here today. I am here today to ask that the school not be granted their request to build their campus in the middle of our neighborhood in Upper Kaumana. Instead of working with the neighborhood in a positive fashion, they have attacked us with name-calling and media attacks. I feel offended that I have been accused of harassing the students because I have a yard sign saying no connections in Kaumana. I have dedicated over 27 years in public service, working as a police officer, firefighter, paramedic, and an officer in the Coast Guard Reserve, and don't appreciate these accusations against my family and me. This has left a bitter taste in my mouth, and this is one of the many reasons why I don't support this project in my neighborhood. Other reasons include, but not limited to, inadequate roads, increased traffic, social anxieties, inadequate water supply, drainage and runoff. I thank you for your time today and for your continued service to our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for a testifier? Seeing none, thank you. Robert Gomes. Name and area in which you live, and then your 3 minutes will begin.
Good afternoon. Thank you to the Commission for hearing testimony today. My name is Robert Gomes. I'm a lifetime resident of Hilo, the Big Island. I'm a licensed pastor here in Hawaii, and the reason I say that is because I have a lot of friends and family that live up in the Kaumana area, and this whole situation has created a lot of stress and anxiety with a lot of the unknown that they still live with. I asked the Commission to expedite your decision to disapprove this area. I'm also a full-time worker for the County of Hawaii, and I want to make it clear that I don't speak for the county. I'm the low-tech level guy. I'm the guy that goes out there and does the scraping and the cleaning. We take care of the streets, and I can confirm and tell you that this area of Rowan of Kaumana Drive is already a traffic hazard. Any improvements that can be done will only help the problem that they have existing right now. This enormous facility that they plan to put here will have a dramatic impact on the traffic. Funny thing is, I reside in Kilkaha, and we've learned to live where when you can't make any more changes, you just have to live with it. The school is not there yet, and there's a lot of things that can be done to avoid things later on down the road, where once it's there, there ain't nothing you can do about it. The other issue at hand is it rains a lot in Hilo, and I guess I can get attest to that. And when it really rains, it really rains. And in this particular area, water moves with such a volume. We've been there where we've set up roadblocks and we've manned barricades, and with this amount of development, you're gonna either direct or try to redirect a lot of water. And we've learned throughout history, when the water wants to move, it'll go where it wants to go.
1 minute.
And I can't speak for the people there in the area, but I know the people downstream will be the ones directly affected by this enormous amount of water that's being redirected because of the development of the land. As it is right now, the land itself absorbs most of the volume of the water that does move through there. So between the water and the traffic and the inability of the area, if anybody is driven up in that area, it's really hard to do any type of improvement on the road because the shoulders are narrow. We have flood control ditches in the way and people's property and stuff. So you can say that the improvements and stuff will be done or the easements from Pauline into the area. It's just a bad decision and a bad location. And I thank you for the time.
Thank you. Any questions for a testifier? Seeing none, thank you. Alan Novak, name and area in which you live, and you begin.
Alan Novak. I've been a resident of Malimanu Street for over 18 years. I'd like to preface my written testimony, which I believe you all have copies of. I'd like to preface that by saying that, sharing my personal opinion, having been the co-founder of an organization called Therapeutic Horsemanship for the Handicapped, in which I not only helped to establish the organization, but participated in the daily maintenance of our equestrian livestock. And I'm also an animal lover. I have a master's degree in animal behavior. I want to share with you that horses are grazing animals. There are no trails on which to exercise the horses. The terrain is unsuitable for horses. It will damage their hooves. In the horse community, there's a saying, no hoof, no horse. A lame horse doesn't have much of a future. And I believe it would be inhumane to stable horses without daily exercise. Getting to my written testimony, I wish to address the credibility of Connections Public Charter School administration. In Mr. Ted Hong's letter of October 10th, 2012, he represents that Connections was the victim of a heinous crime on the part of on-the-line fencing, when the fencing company brought bulldozers to clear within the subject property. The letter states that Connections did not know that what was being done on the property and stopped the work as soon as they found out. At first I didn't give this much thought, but then it occurred to me after a while. I began to realize that it just didn't make sense. I live on Malimanu Street and I must drive by the subject property, get to and from work each day. Because Edita Street is the only entrance and exit from my home. I observed the bulldozer on the property daily while it was there and recall it being on the property for at least 3 minutes. Also, the work didn't stop until the clearing was completed and the fence around the lower 37 acres was finished. It seemed odd to me that such a large project could go on for such a long time without anyone from Connections being aware of what was happening, especially since the school principal lived near the property and running of the bulldozer could have been heard from his home. I called on the line fencing and spoke to Mr. John Gonzalez. He assured me that prior to the work, a contract had been signed by Connections, which specified that a bulldozer would be used on the property, that the work was inspected by Eric Boyd of Connections while it was in progress, and John Thatcher was aware of the bulldozing. He told me the bulldozer had been on the property at least 3 weeks, clearing had completed prior to them being told to stop, and the fencing was completed.
Thank you. Any questions? Yes, Commissioner Au?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a couple questions for you. One question is, Mr. Turner lives adjacent to the property and he shares your same concern about a bulldozer and a fence. Where do you live?
I live on Malimanu Street, about halfway up Malimanu Street from Edita.
Okay, second question is, do you know if the fence is 6 feet, over 6 feet?
No, it is not.
Would you say it's 5 feet?
4 feet.
Thank you. Any other questions for this part? Seeing none, John, may have a seat. Thank you. Calling up Norine Okuhara, Joy Leo, M. Bishop, and Rowan Kelly. Commission? I do. Okay, very good. We will start with Norine Okuhara. Your name, area in which you live, and then you may begin.
Okay, my name is Norine Okuhara, and my husband Henry and I have lived at 1209B Kaumana Drive for over 40 years. And so I live right next door to Jason Turner. And Jason was working in Kona that weekend. And his wife came up to my property and was, naturally overexcited with 3 men approaching her carrying machetes. That is when we found out about Connections. Okay. Prior to this, I have never received any notification. None. None of the meetings, nothing. Okay, we are not against the students. We're not against the school. We're against the principle of the matter. And my main concern is their water rights. You heard Councilman Ikeda. He talked about not having sufficient water rights. So what's going to happen? They use up all the water and I can't use my water because they'll be tapping into my water? Because I live right below Edita. And so I've gone up, I've looked at it, and the property right above me, they had bulldozed right next to the person's chain link fence. And I looked at it, and personally, I got scared. Because what's to stop them from doing other underhanded things? Excuse my language, but, it doesn't sit well with us, with the community. And, don't get me wrong, kids. We're not against you folks. We're against the way things were developed.
1 minute.
And, I worked at Connections 1 year. I enjoyed the students there. But I don't like the way things have been proceeding. So please consider our feelings. And, please vote against this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Commissioner Au?
Quick question. Would you classify the bulldozing work as grubbing, or were they actually altering the landscape? Were they clearing the land?
They were actually clearing the land.
Like were they moving rocks and stones and turning things over?
It's totally flat. It's totally flat. And it looks over 1 acre.
So you wouldn't consider it grubbing?
No. And I should know because my husband retired from construction.
Thank you. Any other questions for testifier? Thank you. We'll go to Joy Leah.
McLeod.
McLeod. Sorry. Name and area in which you live, and then you may begin. Name and area in which you live, and you may begin.
My name is Joy McLeod. I live on Hokulani Street. I am a lifelong resident of Kaumana, a proud graduate of Kaumana Baptist Keiki Land, Ernest B. D. Silva School in Hilo High. I am a true Kaumana girl, homeowner and resident, and I believe that our community will be negatively impacted by the traffic this school intends to force onto Kaumana Drive at least twice a day. The outdated and invalid traffic study completed in May of 2009 concluded this project will have little or no impact on traffic that cannot be mitigated. The individual who did this study doesn't live in Kaumana, whereas I have driven on Kaumana Drive for 34 years, and I know the dangers this road can impose. A recently completed residential development off Hokulani, offering 39 units, sold 14 units in one day on November 3rd, 2012, and will add more cars and construction vehicles to Kaumana Drive and Hokulani. According to the Hawaii County Police Department, Kaumana Drive alone has had 232 vehicular accidents in 2011, and up until October of 2012, 191. Over recent years, I have learned to practice defensive driving, as mostly Mauka-bound drivers have been hugging the center line of Kaumana Drive to avoid having to slow down while driving through the many bends and curves of Kaumana Drive. I am keenly aware of driving habits, as my son was hit by a car, although not on Kaumana Drive, while crossing the street, suffering critical injuries. The police determined the vehicle was speeding, as my son was thrown 25 feet of the impact. This happened 22 years ago, yet it stays with me today. I'm concerned for all pedestrians, not just for those who reside in my neighborhood. I conclude by adding that this is my first time participating in this process, and I'm stepping out of my comfort zone mainly because the school has taken to use the media and other means to gain sympathy and support for this project. The issue is safety, traffic for all residents, and I ask that the school consider an alternate site and that the Planning Commission vote against this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for a testifier? Seeing none, thank you. M. Bishop? Name and area in which you live, and your 3 minutes will begin.
M. Bishop, I'm a homeowner in the Kaumana area. Board, neighbors, students, aloha. I want to bring up the water issue again. 4,200 gallons per day. I know you're going to have some testimony from authorities here, so they're going to give you a better recap. The alternative for that lack of, or less than 1/4 of your daily requirement for the facilities and peoples of this school is 42,000 gallons a day. That's it. Alternative is drilling. They're going to drill for a well. This is a cave, natural preserve. It's indigenous lands. There's a lot of flaws with the alternative. How can we approve a facility and the operation of facilities on a daily basis, let alone projected basis for 65 years, with that short of necessary needs as water? That's my comment. Along with that, I'd like to say that OHA, who is a party in this process, being that DLNR and OHA are synonymous, they responded with a letter to the EA, to the school, to the principal, I don't know what his name is, that Mr. Thatcher, that they were pleased to see that the environment, the indigenous plants, the process for cultivation were ongoing with the aspect of native community and propagation of indigenous service. Now, Mr. Thatcher has already crossed the line of not being Tuna. The way the land was bulldozed, the way the fence went up, the way that people that had the operations worked out. It wasn't good. It wasn't very good. So, thank you for my time.
Thank you. Any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, thank you. Rowan Kelly, give me your name and area in which you live, and you may begin.
My name is Rowan Kelly, and I don't live in Kaumana, but I live up Kibiki Homestead Road in Pakalau, and I'm in the 5th grade. And ever since my first day at Connections Chart School. I've been here since 3rd grade growing up. I've been treated by kindness by the students and the staff and the teachers, of course. And the one I have right now is one of the best teachers I've ever had in my life. And my skills in language arts, math, spelling, handwriting, science, and social studies have all improved ever since I've come to Connections, and I just want you to help us build the new Connections in Kaumana, even though I'll be long gone by the time you finish it. But anyway, I just want you to help us build it, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions for the testifier? Seeing that, now we have a seat. We call back. Mr. Chair. Oh yes, we should on recess. Yeah, 5? 5 minutes? Yeah. Okay, 5-minute recess.